Uh-huh. Everything that you say can be used against you. Welcome, everybody, to our Agile Austin Leaders Special Interest Group. Yes, Matt, I say the whole thing all the time. February 2024 edition. Thanks for coming out, folks. And I tell everybody, we do put this on our Agile Austin YouTube channel afterwards. We got like 114 videos now on our channel. We're going viral. Hold on there. But if you do not want to be seen, that is okay. Just turn off your camera, change your name, and nobody will even know that you were here. That's just how awesome it is, right? So you all can hear me well, right? Because I always say my biggest fear is the fear of not being heard. Introductions to start with. Max Akessi. I am the Agile Austin president. I've been for a couple of years. I've been on the board for about 4 years. Agile Austin member since 2010 and prior. Also, co-founder of this SIG that is 13 years and going, and it's just always so much fun. And oh, breaking news! I was an IT senior manager at PayPal up until Tuesday when PayPal had huge layoffs. And funny enough, I don't know why I'm still excited about this. It's kind of like I have wanted to take a pause and do my own thing for years, and now I have the opportunity. There's like a bunch of things going on and everything. So now is the opportunity to try it out. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, there's always corporate America. So, folks, what do we do at the SIG? Oh, I've got to admit a bunch of people here. Hey, hold on there. What we do at the SIG here, we meet every Friday, the first Friday of the month, okay? And what we mainly do is that we bring together everybody that is interested in leading an agile transformation or learning about having to lead an agile transformation. That's what we do. And we have a guest speaker or we'll have a panel, the discussion, and it's all around that. Okay. And as I
I
said,
may have to drop in the middle of this, but I thought
we have had to have the power to mute people. Imagine that. My wife would like to do that to me a lot too, right? So this is what we do every Friday, and it's just been great to have been doing this for 13 years now. All right. So I would like to also put in the chat if anybody's interested in becoming an Agile Austin member. We have been a nonprofit since 2007. We have a lot of special interest groups. We have a lot of perks for the membership. Just go to our site. We've put a lot of cool work into our site, and it's a really awesome site. And there you can find out everything about being a member, being a sponsor, and what we do as a nonprofit in the Agile Austin community and beyond. Because ever since we've gone virtual, we have paying members, $35 a year from Denmark, Brazil, Canada. We always have Canadians. Love the Canadians. Okay. And it's just great to be here. Folks, shout out to our sponsors, Agile Velocity, and I'm putting them in the chat right now. Agile Velocity has been with us as a sponsor for years and years and years. And Ad Meliora Coaching also is a sponsor. So let's show some love to our sponsors. They make a lot of things possible for us. And Ben, thank you for being here, Ben. And Ben, can I make you co-host?
Yes, you can. I'll be here for the first half hour and can help you out.
Yeah, to admit people. There you go. Let me find you real quick. Ben Rogers. You are the only Ben Rogers here. Make co-host. You've got as much power as I do, Ben. There you go. Our platinum sponsors, this will be in the recording. They give us good discounts on all their training. The 15% off Agile Velocity, folks. So they do all sorts of certifications, consulting, and etc. etc. I tell people the best way to stay connected with what we do in the Agile Austin community is sign up on our meetup, okay? All the things we do are in the meetup. Subscribe to our meetup page and you will get all the alerts of the 5 to 7 sessions of special interest groups that we do every month. We have the leaders one, which is this one here. We have the coaching one, really popular for people that do agile coaching or are interested in that. We do the agile at scale. We do the book club. How many agile organizations have a book club? It's awesome. Ned has been doing it for years now. And we do a lean Kanban one, the product SIG. We used to have it. It kind of fell apart during the pandemic, but we want to bring it back. So if anybody's interested in having to be a co-lead or is passionate about product stuff, we're just finding the right people to get the product SIG going. And folks, if you joined right after I said it, put in the chat where you're joining from, shout out, and all that fun stuff. Okay? We are starting to come back in person. We were doing a quarterly meetup SIG. Prior to the pandemic, we used to do this every month. Now we're just getting back into it. Macmillan on February 20th for all of you that are in Austin. For Joe that is in Portland, maybe you'll join us some other time, okay? But for everybody in Austin, we're hanging out February 20th, food, drinks, and lots of people talking about some cool topics, okay? So on we go. We have a board. I'll just say some awesome folks on the board. Myself, Ben here is our Chief Technology Officer, Scott, Lee, Angela. Just send us an email at board@agileaustin.org and tell us how awesome we are. Okay, that's pretty much it. If you want to volunteer, please just go to our site, ask questions, see what's out there. agileaustin.org. That's our site. It has all the information. Ka, in case you didn't see my virtual background and Ben's, okay, Ka is coming up. And I'm just going to put a few things here for Ka, where you get your tickets and our speaker lineup. We've got Bob Galen flying down from North Carolina. We've got a whole bunch of people here in Central Texas. We got people from Dallas and Houston. And just check out the speaker lineup. It's a hybrid conference. So Matt from Seattle is going to be joining us from Seattle because he doesn't love us enough to fly down here, but he's going to be there. And we actually have a virtual committee, Matt, to try to make this the best possible virtual experience. We're trying, okay? Trying.
Have them reach out to me. I'm happy to jump in and help.
Ben, I mean, you heard that? Say no more, Matt.
I can be the customer persona because I will be.
Awesome, Matt. Always awesome to have you. And for those of you that are not aware, Matt Roberts was president of Agile Austin a while ago as Presidente, set the example as a role model for me now. Thank you. Sponsors. We have our sponsors for Ka, Improving, Evolve Agility, Sudi Coaching and Consulting, IC Agile. We also have K-Force that join in Agile Velocity. They're just in the process. Let me put it up here. If people are interested in sponsoring and everything, we have space for more. So today, we're going to have Stephanie, and Stephanie will do her introduction when we get into her part of the conversation. We have Ka next month. That's our focus. No leader SIG in March. Okay, let's focus on our Ka annual conference, the 11th annual conference we're having. Pamela will be joining us in April to talk to us about creating focus with key Agile measures of success. Okay, from having to measure customer value to a whole bunch of stuff. You want to focus on measuring if you're succeeding or not, or else just imagine what could happen, right? Doing a lot of things that do not add value. That's one of the worst things you could possibly do. Okay, and as we end, this might be a lot to ask for people, but we like to take Brady Bunch pictures. And I think a perfect time is in between now and as I go to our PowerPoint deck to speak with Stephanie. Can people, if possible, turn on your camera? Just try to do it. When you Chen, I see you. Dave, I see you. Beverly, awesome. A few more folks, come on. Where are you? I see you, Amy. Yes, awesome. Chris, I see you. Seth, okay, okay. Are we ready? Okay, folks, now we're gonna act as if we're really having a good time. We're gonna smile, we're gonna give a peace sign, we're gonna do something, and then on 3, 2, 1. Hold on. There you go. I got it. I got it. There you go. I got you. Yes, Sam, I got your thumbs up. I got a bunch of stuff. Okay, we're good to go. Let us go to, let me bring up the presentation slide. Hold on. Today, February.
And Max, one other thing, you're gonna need to make Stephanie a
Oh, no, no.
co-host as well.
Yes, but it's me that is presenting.
Okay, all right.
So I will keep the power. Okay, so let me share
good.
again. Hold on a second. We're on the wrong slide here. There you go. Please confirm that you are able to see the Agile Fusion in action. Okay, before we get started, this is going to be more of a fluid, guided discussion with myself, Max, and Stephanie. But before Stephanie does introduce herself, how did I get connected with Stephanie and how is she here? Okay. For a long time, I've just been having a lot of conversations with people in the Agile space. And it's like, I am a Scrum Master and I work with the team to facilitate Scrum ceremonies, backlog refinement, sprint planning. And a lot of people outside our space, in the finance space, in the marketing space, like, what are you talking about? Right? And then what role does what? And then people are focused in their role. And the real big thing about a team, a Scrum team, an agile high performing team, is delivering customer value faster and better. But people are getting pigeonholed in these roles and these silos. And so I met Stephanie at some event and she was like, yeah, in my role, like I had to wear multiple hats. I had to do certain things to help the team deliver. And I was like, oh my God, Stephanie, we need to talk. Okay. So I am so happy that Stephanie's here so that we can have a discussion and share some real life experiences about how sometimes agile roles can be modified with the focus of delivering value. Okay. So thank you, Stephanie, for being here. Please, Stephanie, brief introduction of yourself. Who are you?
Well, I am an agile person at heart, got that agile mindset. I am currently in between jobs, but my last job, I was actually functioning as what I call a blended role. I was both a Scrum Master and a product owner of a small, sometimes multiple teams, Scrum teams, and I had a blast.
Excellent. And we're so eager to hear about this, right? We're so eager to hear about this.
Yeah.
Tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, so I would like to state that this is my first time doing anything like this. So this is my first rodeo. Got to start somewhere in life.
Doing great. Doing great.
Everyone has a first day, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between Agile and Scrum. We're going to review the traditional Scrum roles, give you some context about this discussion, give you some real life examples, talk about some of the benefits if you're of a blended role, and then also everything can't be all roses and sunshine. So we're going to talk about some challenges and drawbacks of doing the same thing, some considerations if you want to implement blended roles, and you better have a plan to do it. And then we'll open it up for questions and answers.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll flow through this. And folks, if you have questions, comments, whatever, drop it in the chat. I've got the chat here open. So, let's try to make this as interactive as possible. And so, ooh, I like this. I like this. Even it's so basic, and we have a lot of people that are agile veterans here. Let's just start with the fundamental because people get confused sometimes on this.
All right. So what is Agile? Of course, it's a mindset, and we love talking about how it's a mindset. I mean, what are we talking about? It's a set of, oh my goodness, guiding values and principles. It prioritizes the flexibility, adaptability, and customer collaboration. It can be implemented in various ways, and there are multiple frameworks and methodologies that fall under the Agile umbrella. So compare that to Scrum. Scrum is a specific framework that operates within the Agile principles. It provides a very structured yet flexible process framework for Agile development. And it is in Scrum where we get the defined roles, events, and artifacts. So basically, Agile is a broader philosophy, and then Scrum is a specific framework that falls under it. And many Agile teams may use Scrum, but not all Agile teams necessarily follow the Scrum framework. There are other frameworks, XP, Kanban, all that good stuff. So there's the difference.
And spot on, Stephanie. And a key thing as you explained it is when you explained Agile, you didn't talk about roles.
Right.
When you explained Scrum, you talk product owner, Scrum Master, development team. And this is like a fundamental thing that process frameworks, and I'm not like hating on process frameworks now, please. I don't hate on anything. Whatever people want to use to deliver value, I'm process framework agnostic, tools agnostic, whatever. But Agile at its core doesn't talk about roles. And I think that that's a guiding principle that we will touch on now, right? Through the presentation. Thank you. And going back to roles.
Yes, back to the roles, those things that we have been pigeonholed into in Scrum, or some of us have. So you got your traditional product owner. They represent the customer, they manage the product backlog, and ensures the team is working on the most valuable items. We call that the product focus. Your Scrum Master ensures the team is following those Scrum principles, removes impediments, and helps the team continuously improve. We'll call that the process person. And then there's the development team. They design, develop, test, and deliver potentially releasable product increment. They are in charge of the how. So there you got your team, the three components. And then you got your development manager, team manager. They're on the right. Why are they off by themselves? Well, that is because in a Scrum team, the development team manager role is not explicitly defined, and they are not technically part of the Scrum team. And that will come into play a little bit into the presentation as to why I mentioned that.
Because a lot of times I think that even from a management perspective, people feel sometimes threatened by the fact that, oh, this process framework doesn't call me out as a role and everything. Well, that is something that, you still are part of helping the team deliver value. You got to find your place. Ooh, blend roles. Wait, but we just talked about roles. What are we talking about now? Blending roles. Wow.
That's where you take the roles and you spin them in the blender and you mix it up. Give it a little bit of spice. Oops, where did my presentation go? Okay. So giving you some context, why would you blend roles? And there seems to be a growing industry trend to blending of the Scrum roles, but why? Often employers misunderstand the value of the independent roles. Hey, if team A is doing just fine without a Scrum Master, then oh my gosh, team B should be fine without one just as well. But one must ask, what is their definition of just fine? Are they really performing? Are they delivering the value? What is fine? There is a mindset that not having the independent roles can save the company some money. Yeah, we're all about saving the money. Yeah, we reorg, we lay off people, unfortunately. And sometimes often those in the company responsible for the budget may not have any clue what a person in a given role is in Scrum is actually doing. Well, except the developers. Everyone knows the developers, what they do. The non-developer team members are just head count. So the bean counters say, well, we don't need this bean. Bye-bye. And perhaps the company hasn't established a career path for a given role. It takes time and effort to establish those defined career paths for different roles. And if the company doesn't truly understand a role, how could they possibly determine how one could grow into that role and have a career in, or where they would go after that? And yeah, it seems every employers are looking these days for people with multiple deep skill capabilities, typically deep technical skills followed by one or more key skills. They want a software developer who can also be a people manager, coach, and has strong business acumen, all within an agile background. They also might want a product manager who can develop their product in an agile framework. And then they want their scrum masters also to be a project manager and a developer all at the same time. It's like, wow. Of course, these employers are looking for employees to be more efficient and do multiple jobs, but we need to help them realize that there actually can be consequences of efficiency over effectiveness in some cases, but not all. So,
And Stephanie, I think this is such a key point, not only now, but for the near future. To start with, from my experience, no two teams are the same.
that's
No
correct.
two teams are the same. The fact that we actually have predefined roles that we put, a scrum team must be this, a scrum team must be this. Well, you know what? Back over 10 years ago, I worked with this team that was the most agile, high-performing team I'd ever experienced. It was 4 people that sat around a table in the office, and there was no scrum master. There was no scrum master. There was no product owner per se, but they still did all the functions that they had to do, and they were extremely high performing, and they would deliver every week on stuff that was asked of them at the beginning of the week. And yet, I've been with teams where if they didn't have a good scrum master, they wouldn't get anything done, because just the flow of work and how they worked with dependencies all over the place and everything. And it was just a scenario where they needed and had a capable scrum master. So those two teams were completely different in their understanding of the work, their maturity of the team, and their agile practices. And hence roles would actually would vary a lot. And then put in there the introduction of AI, massive amounts of automation that can happen. And then you really have to question, which roles are we going to need? Or can we just take it from a team perspective? This team has to deliver, and they'll have to sort it out themselves somehow. But again, these are some of the things that you called out, that people just blend roles and make like assumptions just because this team is like that and that team should be the same, and it just has catastrophic consequences. Okay. Oh, the real life examples now. This is like, tell us what your story is, Stephanie. What happened? Hey?
Okay. So I'm going to talk about my team, the one that I just was a member of. When I mentioned before, I was a product owner and the Scrum Master. So I started my Agile journey coming from project management as a product manager from a very highly structured PMO organization that was waterfall. So when I started my last job, it's like, oh, what's Agile? I don't know what this is. Went to Agile training, was a product owner, for a full stack development team, small team. Okay, so yeah, it was new to me. I had, over the 4 years after I started, had great Scrum Masters, and was great. That was great because they did the traditional Scrum Master tasks. So, leading our facilitating our Scrum ceremonies, keeping up with all the stats for the team, reporting to management, all that good stuff with the stakeholders. And it helped me concentrate on learning what I need to do for a product owner, as a product owner. So, and then about 4 years in, the company decided, well, we don't need Scrum Masters. So they eliminated the role. And so it's like, okay, what?
They eliminated all the Scrum Masters on all the teams.
Yes.
Regardless what the team's needs were, how the teams were performing. It was just a blanket decision across
Blanket
all the
decision.
teams.
Yes.
Imagine that. Okay.
Yeah. And it took a while to roll off some of them
Mhm.
and move people for a period of time. They would move people around and, you know, scrum masters around, and they, you know, did multiple teams, single teams, whatever. Our team always had a scrum master that was shared with another team. That's fine. But anyway, so here we were, no scrum master. It's like, okay, well, what do we do? I mean, in general, I knew what the scrum master did. You know, I observed what they did for the team, but it's really what are they really supposed to do? There got to be something else that I'm not seeing that they do. Yeah. How do they do all these reports? How do, you know, all this other stuff? So I decided for the sake of the team, which I'd grown to love, it's like, I might want to get some training. And so therefore I went to Agile school and became a certified Scrum Master and figured all that. And it was in training that I learned there are two roles that should never be blended: the Scrum Master and the product owner. I said, oh my God, your Scrum Master should not be your product owner, and vice versa. I said, okay, I just been dealt a wonderful dealt a card. It's like, what am I going to do? I'm destined to fail. So I was like, oh no. So I had to figure it out. So once I became the team Scrum Master, um, I decided, it's like, okay, was this concept of self-organizing team. I said, let's take some of this stuff and let's really take it to heart. So I went to the team and it's like, okay, now I'm your Scrum Master. How are things going? What, you know, give me some feedback. How do we want to change things up? And they decided that, yeah, we wanted to change things up. They didn't like all the ceremonies necessarily. So for example, we no longer we didn't do the sprint retrospective. We introduced what we call a process retro, in that we'd meet once a month, talk about a process. That was the discussion topic. You know, for example, are we getting the right requirements, the level of requirements we need from product? If not, what do we need to do about it? It's typical retro stuff. But it was always offsite over lunch and beer. And it's amazing how much more engaged the development team is when you get a beer in them, and two and three. So, but
Because Stephanie, if I may say, the goal of the retro, the outcome is try to identify things you can continuously improve
Mhm.
on, right? And if it happens too often, according to the team, that could be counterproductive. If it happens in a way that is not as engaging, or people don't feel as comfortable about sharing things, right? Then it's not as productive. And so that's a perfect example of things that you did as a scrum master, even if you're a product owner switching over, that helped the team improve, right?
Right.
Improve. And then, like, if you could just call out a few more things, and then we might have a question or two from the
Okay.
chat, but please continue.
Okay. So I basically let the team decide, we as a team, you know, as both the Scrum Master and the product owner on the team, what was best for us. Yeah, we've experienced having a dedicated Scrum Master. We experienced a period of time not having one. It's like, so what works best for us? I mean, we need to decide. We need to meet our own destiny so we can be actually more productive, um, and deliver things. So we kind of did that. I also have to kind of mention in addition to the Scrum Master and product owner role, I also was the team's only QA person and also the release manager. So
3, 4.
yeah,
It's awesome
and
because you're showing that the functions that are normally done by multiple roles can be done and sometimes there's counterproductive, and you'll share some other examples about
right,
pros and cons, but we have to think sometimes outside the box in saying our goal is not just to get pigeonholed in a role, right? Our goal is the team has to deliver. And you just found there was a gap with a release manager. And so you did part of that. And there was a gap in QA, and some dev could have done QA too, but you knew the product enough that you were able to QA it. And that worked, right? At least from
yes,
your personal experience, your perception of the matter, and from what the outcomes that you saw, that worked, right?
it did. And over the years of I've never, wearing one hat has never been my jam. So wearing the multiple hats was, second nature to me. It's like, and I'm also a control freak. So I want to be in control of the
Well,
process.
that
So
has its advantages and
yes,
disadvantages.
yes. We'll talk about
But
those disadvantages a little bit later.
how about if we just go over to chat very quickly and
Okay.
let me just read a few things, okay? Sam was like, same happened with my team of project managers, but it was because it wasn't agile. So Sam, if I understood this correctly, they laid off a bunch of project managers and their definition of why the layoff happened was, oh, because you folks are not agile. So like we're letting you go. Is that
Yeah,
the
it was more, it was, and this is a bit complicated, but I think it speaks very much to what Stephanie is saying, and it's the conflation of roles. Some things
Yeah.
can go hand in hand, and some things probably shouldn't. And so they tried Scrum Masters, didn't love Scrum Masters because it was, an extra step. Things weren't getting done. So set up our project management team, didn't love that because that was an extra step. And so it was, this isn't agile. We're not moving fast enough, but part of being agile is delivering. And so to what Stephanie's saying, like you can have people do multiple roles, but are they qualified for it? Is that the skill set that they're even interested in? So unfortunately, we were impacted by that because it felt like we're doing more steps when honestly, we're trying to figure out how do we iterate quicker than we were.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for sharing that, because what you just said, I think, has been happening a lot across the industry overall. There's a perception of, oh, well, some of these roles, are they really needed? Some of this stuff, and we know about like how, in particular, some agilists were impacted at Capital One, and Stephanie's not talking about Capital One, and we're not going to talk about company names, but there are some articles and some things out there saying that, and I think that this is part of this topic today is stepping away from the definition of the roles per se and just going to the definition of delivering value and everything that has to be done with that. And Stephanie just shared an experience about they didn't need to go out there and hire another Scrum Master or hire a release manager or QA. Things had to get done. And Stephanie was a person that was okay with stretching beyond her boundary. And I think that this is something with more of the automation and tools that are going to be available for us folks, and with an agile mindset of adaptation, there is so much more that we can get done in the future outside of our roles. When people told Stephanie in the training, you cannot mix functions of a Scrum Master and a product owner. Well, you know what? Stephanie did. And it turned out okay. It can be done. Why should anybody say you cannot mix roles? I mean, the fact that that is even said is like, if you have to mix roles to deliver value, you do that. Okay. Now, before I go to Shritali, there was a question or two more. Was the company Capital One? No, it wasn't, but we're not going to mention companies. How valued is the CAPM certification? Samson was asking that. CAPM. Is that, am I Agile practitioner or something? That stands for what? CAPM. Samson?
Oh, sorry.
the-
Yeah, it's the thing offered by the Project Management Institute.
Oh, the PMI? Yes.
Well, it's the one for people who don't already have enough experience for the PMI.
Got it. Got it. So, Samson, like in the interest of time, I'll make a blanket statement, and feel free to ping me offline and stuff. Certifications, I think, are always valuable, but learning more, getting more information. What is most important is how you implement what you learn. You might go to a certification course that is 3 days long, and there might be 2 things alone from those three days that you actually use, but those can be valuable. But again, it's all about, you have to assess the situation, and you have to then use the knowledge base and an agile mindset if you want to deliver fast, better, and in an iterative way with quick feedback loops. You have to implement it in a way that works. when, to me, the certifications, regardless of which one, it's how you implement the knowledge you learned. And that's why when people show up and say, I'm a CAPM, I'm a CSM, I'm a CSPO, I'm like, tell me how you can help us deliver value. Just tell me that. Don't tell me the certifications you have. Okay. And again, I'm not a certification hater. I'm not. I've been accused of hating on process frameworks and certifications. I think you use whatever you use to deliver value. Okay. Stephanie, if you want to chime in, I'm not at any time to feel free. Okay. I'm just trying to go quickly through this stuff. In my experience, a huge, is Agile dead now? Have all Scrum Masters been laid off? Or what's the next step? Okay, very quickly. Agile is not dead. Maybe the way that Agile is getting implemented by a lot of people, that should die, okay? And that has had a consequence on the Agile community and where we are going. But an Agile mindset of responding to change, customer collaboration, individuals and the interactions, like our Agile values, those are more important now than ever in a world that is changing faster than it ever has in our human existence. And when AI and globalization and other things even kick in more, it's just going to be even more precious. The problem sometimes is what some people perceive as Agile and what is being whether sold out there or what is coming to the mainstream space and all of that. I hope that that explained it. Now, we would love to go through more of the chats, but Stephanie and I have to get through some more awesome stuff that we want to share with you. So I'll keep an eye on the chat, but keep on having to put stuff in there, okay? Because maybe we can even stay a little bit over and address things afterwards. Oh, the benefits. So they're actually, you blended some roles and you kind of talked a little bit about but tell us more, Stephanie. Tell us more.
Okay, so this is speaking from my experience functioning in the blended product owner Scrum Master role. So increased collaboration, the blending of that role, you might foster some better collaboration between the development team and the individual overseeing both those roles. And this could lead to a more cohesive and aligned team. And I can speak to that. It's like once I became the team Scrum Master, I felt more integrated into the team and we became so close knit and a very highly functional team. Everything we needed to do pretty much was contained within the team. Didn't have to do some other stuff. It streamlines communication between the what and the how. Typically, the product owner, of course, is focusing on the what is being built, and the Scrum Master focuses on the how it is and the process that's being built. When a single person is responsible for both those roles, there may be a reduction in communication gaps and misunderstandings between the product focused and the process focused aspects of a particular project. For example, I didn't have to explain or provide project details to a Scrum Master so that they could then report status of the project to our stakeholders or management. I had everything. Nothing was ever lost in translation. And in fact, when a couple of times prior to when I had individual Scrum Masters, I would get the information from management that they provided this information. I said, well, that's not correct. And how did we arrive at those numbers for my team's velocity? Because I don't think that's correct. So there was sometimes the miscommunication there.
Yeah. And Stephanie, just very quick, your key thing about the what and the how. It's so interesting how the what can influence the how a lot and the how can influence the what. And then when it's just one person working directly with the people doing the work, that just flows so much faster and you're just faster. You're just faster about things.
One of the benefits of me also being the team's what you call your typical business analyst, I actually wrote all their requirements. I translated what product wanted into very detailed product, software requirements for the team that they could literally just go off, read them, and go build the thing.
It was as simple as that. That's it, right?
Yes, as simple
No
as that.
layers and layers and layers. Yeah.
And then since I wrote the requirements, I also knew how it needed to be tested. So that helped with the user acceptance testing and the QA and all that stuff. And also I produced all the release notes for internal and external users. So it was all
Bingo.
just
So
all together.
you could really accept the work, right? Like
Mhm.
you could really say, spot on, this is what we need. Excellent job. And or say, hold on, the demo I just saw is not really aligned with what we need, right? And then you could just have those quick conversations right there on the spot and everything, right?
Yeah, the demos were a little bit different in that I knew exactly, I determined what we were actually going to demo because I knew what was ready and what wasn't as their QA person.
Because you were in there. Oh, and as a team demoing out to somebody else, not
Mhm.
even the team having to demo to you. You were so in there that you didn't need a demo from the team as a product owner. It was the demo for the folks outside. Awesome.
Correct. Occasionally my
Awesome.
developers would demo something that was in work in progress, just as a, hey, am I on the right track? And or sometimes there were things that didn't have a UI or something I couldn't test, so they had to walk me through their code. So it was a little different. But it helped with our streamlining of decision making. I mean, I didn't have to go through if things had to be changed up or we had to adapt to change. I had the ability to make decisions, and luckily I had great partnership with product management and our stakeholders that they trusted that I would make a good product decision without having to consult with them every single time. So I had that great relationship. And the collective ownership of the project's success. Each team member shared in the responsibility of the project's success. There is no I in team. We truly as a team had the sense that we as a team were going to be successful, that there wasn't a single individual that was going to be responsible for the project success. And our work estimates and our project delivery dates were always decided upon as a team.
Great.
It allowed us to improve our flexibility. If product all of a sudden changed the roadmap or wanted to inject something into it, I was able to reprioritize all the work, the backlog, and start kicking off new projects and things like that pretty seamlessly. So we were able to adapt in the dynamic environment. Team members may be more adaptable to various tasks and responsibilities, but of course, this is dependent on the team members not having that, oh, that's not my job, or I don't get paid to do that. They cannot have that mindset. It's like if we're gonna blend roles and different people maybe having to take on different tasks, they need to have a better mindset to accept that.
Exactly.
And it also reduced hands-offs. I mean, I didn't have to prepare stuff to give to a Scrum Master to do the sprint review meeting. I could communicate directly with all the stakeholders. I didn't have to go through anybody else. Didn't have to go through my Scrum Master to report to management. So it was a one-stop shop.
Yeah. And even more so because you were not just Scrum Master and product owner, but release manager, which has its communication part, QA, everything. It's just a testimony to the fact that there are visible advantages that you experience by blending roles, right? Because fewer handoffs is a big deal. Fewer handoffs is a big deal. And again, in the future, with more of, automation in place, we might be able to do this more and more, right? More work being done by smaller, really tight-knit, high-performing teams, right? And so, in the interest of time, let's go on to the next one. I know that people are chatting about stuff and everything, but now we're going to talk about example number 2, which might not have been, there's no rainbow and sunshine here. So maybe it wasn't as positive an experience. Tell us,
Yes.
Stephanie.
We'll call them the self-driven squad because that's pretty much what they had to do. Their product owner was also their engineering manager, and they had no Scrum Master ever. So Yeah. So this
Okay.
team, I really didn't have a lot of direct interaction with them. They're sat on the other side of the office, but one of their developers approached me in the office and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about, what can I do next? I'm thinking about, I kind of like hear what you do as a product owner, and it sounds interesting. Can you teach me this stuff?" And I said, "You don't want to go to training?" Because no, I want to, before I invest in that, I want a little bit more. Yeah, I understand you're a product owner and you also come from product management background. So can you explain the differences there? So, and then we kicked off our official mentorship program in the company. And so I ended up mentoring him for a year. And it's like, he would sit with me and see what I did. He did some job shadowing. He goes and explained the product owner role. And then I had to actually stop and say, okay, I'm not just your average product owner. I am also their Scrum Master. You've never had one of those, so you don't know what they do. So I had to really literally tell them, okay, this is what I do as a product owner. And if you were a Scrum Master, this is what you would be doing. So I had to really stop and think, well, is that my product owner role? Is that my Scrum Master role? Which one
Yeah.
is that? Because I'm just used to the working
Yeah.
as a blended person.
Yes.
Or is this
I mean, you do
some of
all
this?
these
Yeah,
functions. You
right.
do
And
all
some,
these
mhm.
functions that are part of different roles, and that's hard sometimes to convey to somebody else. Like, I
Yeah.
doubt that there's anybody on this Zoom call right now that has been a Scrum Master, a product owner, release manager, and a QA person all at the same time. Probably not, right? And
Probably
so,
not.
yeah, so it takes, and you having to mentor somebody else and trying to explain this, and they're just focused on, oh, I want to be a product owner also as an engineer manager, and then we go back into the roles, right?
Right.
But
And I also had to explain some of the stuff, the things that I was actually doing was more of a product managers in their bailiwicks, like, but they are not doing that. I feel it's something our clients need, so I did it. So yeah. So in my discussions with him, I figured out that maybe their team was having some struggles. We were no longer in the office, so we were all working remotely, so I wasn't there visibly seeing the interactions of his team. They weren't going to the water cooler, all that good stuff. So, but I could sense, and I point blank said, "So what kind of things are you struggling with?" And the product owner, they had a product owner, and a dev manager. Their dev manager left. So the product owner moved into the dev manager role. And then they said, "Oh, well, you're just going to be the product owner still. We're going to," so it was the engineering manager and the product owner together. And like I mentioned, they had no Scrum Master. So in preparing, for this, that's like, so I interviewed both the developer and the engineering manager who is doing the blended role. And I said, "So what were some of the things that you can tell me that you are having some challenges?" And when I asked the developer about their struggles, she mentioned the team has to figure out how the product actually works, but they can address anything raised by the stakeholders. And that took a lot of time away from their actual coding. And of course, developers like to code. They don't want to have to figure things out. That's the product owner, or the product manager's responsibility. And they said the distribution of the PO tasks had been unofficially distributed amongst the team. Some tasks were absorbed by the manager and some by the developers. And the traditional tasks of the Scrum Master weren't even being done. So there was no focus on team continuous improvement. Of course, this team was really small. I had gone through a lot of fluctuations and things of that nature. And so they had basically gone into a keep the lights on mode. There was, run the business. There was nothing new feature development. So some of their challenges, of course, they didn't have to worry about. And then when I interviewed the engineering manager about his experience working in that blended role, I said, "So what is he goes, "My availability to the team is no longer there. I cannot be, I'm doing product owner stuff, doing release. All the product owners also are releasing code. They're, says, I'm handling so many managerial tasks and having to go to managerial meetings. I am not available for the team." So he's like,
so the
that,
career development of all the team, which is a really key part of the engineering manager, that person was not able to do that, right?
Right, right. They were not able
They
to do
just
that.
exactly. And so that example of a blended, hey, we don't have this role, let's throw somebody there at it, but then that person is not able to do a key function of their role very well. And it's like almost like in a gradual slow motion way, it just starts to fall apart. It
Mhm.
just starts to fall apart, right? And this decision of the blended role, I mean, it kind of started off the same way as yours, where you just lost Scrum Master, so you just had to stretch and
Mhm.
do that. But as you stretched, your function as a product owner, that was not impacted negatively, right? Like you were able to stretch. You have to think about the key things that you need to still do have to be done. There are some other less key items and tasks that maybe, yes, that can fall by the side or be put on hold and everything. But here it very much sounds like this was these blended roles that were done and these activities ended up making it more challenging for the team to deliver.
Yes.
Period. Like that is full stop. If you blend roles and you see that the team slows down, or people feel that they're not able to do as much, or some end user or customer on the other side doesn't perceive the value being the same as before, you have to hit pause and you really have to talk about it and do a retrospective or something,
Yes,
right?
for sure.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add on this before we go on? Because I know we still have a couple of slides, but
Just if we could go on, because it kind
Mhm.
of ties into this. There
Awesome.
we go. So here, you blended the roles. Things aren't rainbows and sunshine anymore, and your blender is exploding.
Mhm.
So these are some potential challenges and drawbacks with blending roles. Yeah, team two definitely went through some of this. I went through some of this a little bit of the time. Overwhelming workload. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can. There's only so many hours in the day,
Yeah, and you
and
burn
combining
out.
you can burn out. You can
Mhm.
some of the things, if you're concentrating too much on the what, you forget about the how, you forget about how to, what are the team dynamics and continuing their continuous improvement. You can't do everything 100%. And sometimes you end up with potential conflicts of interest. Like there may be tension between prioritizing the product backlog and focusing on the team's process improvements. Like, okay, what's more important today? I'm constantly, well, what do I need to address first? So it causes sometimes it just internal conflict. And then people in the blended roles, they lose their specialization. I can be a 100% awesome product owner and a 100% Scrum Master. I'm only concentrating on those roles, but I become less specialized when I'm doing both. And then with all that comes the risk of burnout. And if you don't, you know, the people just are overworked, they're trying to do too much. And again, if you're not keeping up with it, the team's going to start dwindling in their production. And then the deviation from Scrum, people are used to the Scrum framework and they're used to knowing, okay, product owner does this, Scrum Master do this. So if I'm a stakeholder and I need this, or product manager, I'm going to go to this person. Well, if you have a blended role, well, who do I go talk to? Who's responsible for the thing that I need to get the task I need done? And it's even more confusing within an organization if the blended roles are not consistent from team to team.
Yes, yes.
It's like,
A very key thing about a process framework, it sets a basic expectation of like this person will own this person will own this. So I don't have to think twice about it.
Mhm.
But especially in a large group and organization where this is not communicated or known, you're like, I'm contacting the wrong person. I can't find the product owner. Why is it like I don't find them? I don't know where they are in the SharePoint site or whatever. Yeah,
right.
awesome.
So,
Awesome.
yep.
And so considerations.
Oh, yeah. So if you're thinking about doing this, there are some considerations you might, it's team size and structure. It may work if you have a smaller team or your organization is with limited resources. Blending may work out for you. especially certain types of roles. Maybe some are better to blend than others, but definitely if you have a large team, I would not suggest it. Because there'd be too many. Yeah, at one point, I was actually the product owner, Scrum Master for 2 teams, and both of them were in the Austin office. And then when we went remote, then I was like, now I have a contracting team that's remote, and I'm also their product owner. So it was like totally confused. Yeah,
A lot.
a lot of learning different things. Yeah, and then project complexity and type. If they're working on projects that are really complex, it might make sense. Make sure you're making the right decisions. But if it's really complex, the Scrum Master role becomes more critical in facilitating communication, removing the impediments, and ensuring that the team can navigate complexities effectively. So it might be better that the independent roles are still there. But if you're like in a startup and experimentation and innovation, yeah, you have a little bit more flexibility. So having a blended role may be advantageous. Allows for more flexibility and adapting. And then look at your culture. Are you an agile mind? Do you truly have the agile mindset? Do you believe in collaboration and team empowerment and stuff like that? Because if you don't have the right culture, blending the roles, don't try it.
Don't try it. It's going to be more painful. And I know that Agile's a cool thing to do and everything, but if you don't have the right mindset and culture, don't even do it, because you're just gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna hurt
Especially
yourself.
especially in organizations that don't have good communication. Oh my gosh, yeah, that.
Oh my goodness, spot on. And just in the last 2 of the minutes left or so, can you just wrap it up for us, Stephanie? Right?
Okay.
What's your plan? If you're gonna do it.
If you're going to do it, you better have a plan. You got to have a plan. Make sure your stakeholders are in line with it. That they agree that this is probably a good thing, and they understand what's going to be good. Make sure you have, we're going to communicate about it.
Yeah.
Train the people. Don't just throw them out there. I mean, unfortunately, I was like, next day, oh, I have no Scrum Master. What do I do?
Go be the Scrum Master. Scrum what?
Since it might be advantageous to maybe do some cross training before, the Scrum Master becomes the product, learns product owner, blah, blah, blah. And then you talk about blending the role. And there's another advantage there. If you cross training your people, if the Scrum Master, if you still have independent roles, if your Scrum Master is out for extended leave, the product owner who knows their skill or whoever can just pick up the pace. Pick up where they left off, continue the thing, keep the team rolling. Clarify expectations. Who's supposed to do what? Did any of the defined functions actually get moved somewhere else? Be clear on what you expect from it. And then pilot it. Maybe give it a try with one team. Get some feedback. Provide for feedback. And then, as we love, monitor and adapt.
And it's like we went through it quickly, but these are just key things about having a plan. And Stephanie, thank you. I think we'll stay on for a few minutes more, right? But I just wanted to say thank you for Stephanie. Didn't Stephanie do great? For the first time that she's doing a meetup or a Zoom session like that, I just think that your experiences are what connect, right? And people heard things that they might not have heard before. So please do a shout out, put in the chat, if you learned something new, share what you learned, or if it reconfirms something that you believed, put that in the chat and everything. I see we had a very, very active chat. Great work, Stephanie. Fantastic presentation. Great job, Stephanie. I'm just going through the whole thing. And folks, we might just go through the chat and see if a question or two is still there if people want to stay. But if not, stay agile, my friends. Thanks for coming out. Until the next time, okay? Check out Ka on March 7th, virtual or in person. And take care. I will be posting our Brady Bunch picture. Do you see the Brady Bunch picture? Did you see it? There you go. I'll be posting this on the meetup. Look at that. We've
Nice.
got Stephanie gave the peace sign. I gave the thumbs up. Matt did. You didn't do anything. No peace sign, no thumbs up.
Just
You
a smile.
smiled. You smile. The smile. Ben smiled too. I don't see Ben smile that often, so that's something. Yeah, and oh, double thumbs up. There you go. KPAYNE. Yes. All right, folks. As you drop off, we'll just stay. And if you have a question or two, or we'll just go through the chat if someone is still here, feel free to turn on your camera or speak. We are done for today. Happy
Hey, Max.
Friday.
Can I-
Yes, Matt.
Can I throw
What's up?
something out there? Yeah, one of the things, and I have to
Let me stop
remember
sharing.
this is actually in the Scrum book by Schwaber and Beadle from many years ago that I read probably in 2007 or something, or before. At least when I was going through my Scrum training, which I think was probably it was a while ago, 15 years ago. One of the things I remember, Kurt Peterson, some of y'all may know him, have worked with him. He's a really brilliant guy. He worked with Sutherland and some of these other guys in the early days. Like, I remember the quote that he gave was like, if you're doing Scrum the same way in a year, you're doing Scrum wrong. And I remember a lot of folks, and I have to remember because I think I used to have the book and I had it like, I think it's in there. I think it literally says it in the book. And because it really is a continuous, adaptation framework. And back when I was doing a lot of Agile Austin stuff, I was like the engineering director and I was the Scrum Master. And people are like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I was kind of like, well, like I've sort of had my office that some of you came to, and I was like, I was using my engineering team as like a lab for Agile Austin. And I was like, we really do have this Agile mindset. So we understand, I think like most things, if you understand what you're doing, and Stephanie, your last slide, it's like, if you have a culture that embraces it, if you're deeply inquisitive, if you're trying to understand, if you're doing whatever you call a retrospective, you're continuously learning and you understand why you have a tool or why you have a framework or a process, then I mean, please start that way. That's most of them say have these separate roles, right? Because you're trying to learn it in that whole Shuhari kind of thing. But it's like once you truly master these things and you're really like, oh, I really grok how all this stuff is supposed to work together, then you can start breaking the rules. That's cool. And they expect you to do it, but it doesn't work when your organization's culture doesn't allow it or prevents it or does weird things, because as Agilists, we can do as many wonderful things as we want to. But if there's like a performance management system that will fire you if you try to act
Based
that
on
way.
role. And
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
people are compensated
That's
just
right.
on their role. So be aware that whatever you might do else, I've had developers that have been Scrum Masters, done QA stuff, and then
Right.
then like at the end of the performance review time, they're like, oh, but we also rate you according to how many lines of code you've done. And this
Right.
person's like, I didn't do as much code as other people because I was also Scrum Master and I was QA and I did. And look at that, right?
Yeah.
But
So we
no,
had
Matt,
ambition
thank you.
wants to say, but I'll just want like one thing I'll end on to your point, Max, is a dead Scrum Master is no good to anybody. So that's what we used to talk a lot about. It's like, are you really going to die on that hill right there? Now it's like art of the possible. So I'll shut up
And
now.
you had to end on such a dramatic point, Matt.
Well, it's like I would tell
Nobody's
people
gonna
like,
die, Matt.
go break all the rules. And I was like, don't get fired. Right. Like,
Don't get fired. As I'm like, calm down. Yeah. The
Exactly.
spot on. And again, I see Shwetali. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but your hand is up again. I just want to make sure we get a chance to hear you
Yeah.
this time.
So
Yeah.
I think this is the right point, right?
Mhm.
The Scrum Master thing is kind of, I think it instead of becoming a role, it is becoming skills. And people are looking for the skills, like what does Scrum Master do and what kind of skills people have and how can we use those skills for the betterment of the team. That is how I think the veins are blowing going towards. And we are trying to hire like a developer with the skills of some of the agile skills, right? And the development leads, can they move blocker, can they think about continuous improvement all the time? You know, when we are hiring, we get people with those skills. And during the, then we kind of try to have a self-organized teams where teams are with the available skills, they are able to manage and perform by themselves rather than having the roles. And another problem that I saw specifically with the roles of the Scrum Masters is their growth trajectory.
Bingo.
Typically, there is, when you are siloed in this type of role,
Yes.
yeah, you are a Scrum Master for 3 or 4 years. What are you doing after
Yeah.
that?
Maybe,
become-
I'm like an agile coach, like within the
Yeah.
organization, but there might not be a real need for
Need
an
for that, yeah.
organizational agile coach. And so but if you are someone that helps the team deliver faster and better, right? Like you have
Mhm.
skills that are in the product space, you have skills, Stephanie, for example, today, QA, this,
Mhm.
that, then you are so much more than what
Exactly.
I've seen in Scrum Master job descriptions. The first thing that I see the majority of the time, facilitating Scrum ceremonies. I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah.
that is like 5%. Like the team
Yeah.
can facilitate ceremonies. The team can facilitate like removing impediments. That is a skill that I'm like, yes, like whatever the impediment is, dependencies, the wrong tools, not having people that have the QA talent to script all their QA, and you have to go and find it. That are skills, right?
Yeah.
Facilitating Scrum ceremonies, I see that every time. I'm like, really? Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
but
I think so, as a Scrum Master or Agilist, like we also need to think about value maximization of the entire team or entire product. What value are we adding? I mean,
bingo.
yes, overall, yes, we are speeding up the process, but can we add more value? Can we know the product more technically? Can we,
Yes.
for our own growth also, right? That is, we cannot have pure role of the Scrum Masters as a growth role.
Exactly. We've got to think, and thank you for this the feedback. And I hope that with this session, it highlighted the fact that Stephanie was just so much more valuable because she brought a variety of skills and functions to the team, right? And saying, are you a Scrum Master? Are you a product owner? Are you something like it? Just at some point, it didn't even make sense to talk in terms of roles. I mean,
It's
right,
funny.
Stephanie?
Yeah,
It didn't make
they
sense.
refer to me as Mama Duck.
Mama, have you put that on your LinkedIn yet? Mama
No,
Duck?
it's and it's why is that? It's because it wasn't the team, but the rest of the company did, because the team would not move like to go to a meeting. It's like they wouldn't move until I got up and they'd follow me.
Oh, well, that in itself can be also detrimental to the team, but
Yeah, it's like,
it's
as a as their official Scrum Master, I felt my most important job was not Scrum ceremonies, not that. It was being their coach, making sure they understood the product vision, what we were trying to accomplish, and how we needed to get there and keep their spirits up, because we would be,
because they're going
so much
continuously.
work, product not listening to us, it was horrible at times. And it's like, it's like, I had to keep them going. I had to keep them motivated. So to me, they're
Now-
coach. They're cheerleader.
Yeah.
And maybe
So-
that's why,
so-
and that's why this role is going more and more to a development manager, because people are seeing this as a coach rather than just activities to be performed, because you can delegate
But
the
Shatali-
activities to people.
Well,
But-
and that's
Well,
interesting that
Shatali,
you say that.
yeah, exactly. There's a question mark on what you just said there. And
Yeah.
I'll let Stephanie go first, and I'll say something, and then we might have to close the shop up
Right,
here.
okay.
Okay. But yeah, Stephanie.
And
Speak on
so
that.
my team and everyone in the company says I protected my team. And I said, well, so who did I really protect them from? And you don't, from their manager, because their manager would tell a product, oh yeah, that'd be great. We'll do this. The team, and they never consulted with the team. No one on the team was like, so they committed.
It didn't go through the backlog. It didn't go through a prioritization process. The engineering manager just said yes.
Yes.
Imagine
or
how,
made a decision that we're going to hire, that move people around.
Bingo.
It's like, how do we know that this, I mean, we don't even know this, how we don't even know this person's going to meld
Exactly.
with this team?
imagine how detrimental that kind of an engineering manager would be as a Scrum Master,
Oh, yeah.
right? Just imagine how kind of that. And, you know, not to push back on what you just said, Shutali, but it's just the fact that you have to really look at the needs that you have on the team. And then you have to say, does engineering manager or dev lead or whomever have those skill sets? Do they have the proper skill sets to match the needs? It's not about, oh, let's make all our dev managers Scrum Masters. That has consequences, detrimental consequences. There's certain functions that have to be done. You have to find people that have the skill sets and the ability to do those functions, right? And Louise, okay, we see your hand go up. You'll be our last one. You're still on mute, but hold on a second.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I
Mhm.
really appreciate, you know, your comments, and Stephanie, and actually you and Matt. So we are not talking, you are right. We are not talking of the role per se, is actually the skill set that you are bringing to the table. So the issue, I just came last year, I mean, in October, I went to Amsterdam, the global gathering. And
Yeah.
that was one of the items discussed, why the companies are going into this kind of chaos, and they start to combine the roles. Not only that, they start to combine back the agile with the project management, you know, methodology. Agile is a framework. The other one is actually a complex
mindset,
methodology.
but yes,
So,
yes.
so the idea is, and one of these days, maybe, I do not know, I participated to several of your meetings, and they are absolutely fantastic. I want to compliment you, Max.
Thank you.
The topics that you are talking. Maybe in the future you will also discuss the item that has been published by Scrum Alliance at the Business Agility and was presented the first time in October at this Amsterdam global gathering, regarding the agile skill set of the professions that actually it's needed nowadays. So this is what it's an article. Once you log into the Scrum Alliance, everyone can download. Actually, it's about 20 pages.
Yeah.
And it's showing why we no longer need, in this century, a person that is only T-shaped. So basically, you have a profession, you graduated the engineering, this is what you're going to be for the rest of your life, an engineer or whatever other profession. So nowadays is needed this pie shape of the person.
Bingo.
So just to give you as example, right on. I am a designer. I graduated industrial design. I worked for Renault cars back in Europe. When I moved to Toronto, Canada, about 35 years ago, there was no design. So I went back to university. I studied computer science. I wrote code for 10 years. Then I moved into project management. So the PMI structure, I managed the big programs for the banks in Toronto. Once we had you know, the Agile, I moved into Agile, of course, getting all the training necessary to the highest ones. I trained with Dr. Jeff Sutherland, and et cetera, et cetera. So for me, when I was implementing the PMO, I was PMO manager for IBM, for the banks, CIBC, you know, TD, et cetera, was very easy to establish the perfect or the right framework into the big organization for 400 million programs. And then to clarify for each and every one the role, because that's how you are going to assess them. And I know that Max, you tapped into that. If they do not know what is correctly their role and the expectation, you are not going to assess their progress and how they are doing
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
going to get
And
fired, and poor guys, they do not know why.
yeah, like so you have to, the compensation of the work you do is so key to blended roles have to be reanalyzed in how you compensate for that, right? And that is just something that
Exactly.
I have never experienced HR doing well. I just
No,
haven't,
no,
right?
they
They
don't.
have
They don't
roles,
have the
they
skills.
don't have anything to do with that. So what Stephanie said, is your organizational culture, their perspective, their mindset, is that aligned with what you're trying
Yes.
to do? If not, you could still do it, but be aware of the consequences. Be aware of it.
Right.
That's it,
You are going
right?
to drop the
Yeah.
balls, right? When you put a Scrum Master to do the engineering or whatever, and if she does not have the all these things to come back and to say, here is why
What I
you
did.
cannot do that
Yeah.
because A, B, C, D, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
one of our
Absolutely.
colleagues in this meeting, he said clearly, rightfully so, you cannot have a PO doing the Scrum Master. Yes, because we have different actually items to take care of. The PO is a master into understanding the business and has the knowledge. As opposed to Scrum Master, which actually knows more the development, the IT side, et cetera,
But
right?
wait,
So she
but wait,
optimizes
Louise.
that.
But when you say you cannot have the same person do two things, maybe they might not have that expertise at the start or whatever. But as Stephanie here shared, the same person can do those two roles.
If you have the skills and if you
If you have the
understand it, you
skill
see,
sets, and yes, of course, of
Right.
course.
she was extremely successful, and
Bingo.
Stephanie, you did extremely well and presented well because you understood something. You are right. What a coach understand. I have to make this guy successful against all odds. And you are putting the hat of the PO or the Scrum Master or whatever was needed to make this guy successful with that, how should I say, understanding and desire to make them successful, sometimes against the management, all odds, right?
It was the will, yes.
But
And
you
we
have to
have to
know
wrap
this and
up.
to
I'm
explain it.
sorry. Yes. No,
Yes.
Louise, as you said that last week, you have to know it, you have to explain it, you have to have a plan. Stephanie, you are a very detail-oriented person. You're a very dot the I and cross the T's. And I'm sure that as you evolved into doing more and more of these roles, people were aware that you were doing it and stuff like that. Now, did people appreciate it as much as they should have? That's a whole other story,
Well,
right?
I can answer that question.
Yeah.
They eliminated my role,
You see?
laid me off.
Now, before you eliminate a role, someone that is doing 3-4 different roles, it just doesn't sound logical to me, but
Right.
who knows? But you see, but this is something like, it's almost as if you're ahead of your time, because I think in the future, and maybe if in the Agile community we can start to promote this more and more, is like, how can you expand your skill sets so that with more of the tooling and the automation, I keep on going back to this thing, not just to say AI, it's automation. Like, it's like doing a lot of mundane tasks that you were doing before, and then all of a sudden you're able to do more. You're able to do 50 to 70% more than you were able to do before. Then at that point, it's not going to be enough just to do one role. There's no need for someone that has that much capability to do one thing, one prior role that we expected. They might do one role that encompasses 3 or different roles of today, right? There might be a role in the future that is the equivalent of 3-4 different roles that we see today. And people have to be ready to start to think like that. But it's just, we're just not there. The companies are not there because of their HR structure and everything. Job descriptions that I see they're posted are just not there yet, right? So let's start. I just love the session that we had because we started talking about this. We just planted a seed, like start talking about it because we had an example. You were the example, right?
Yeah,
we
and
can
it,
talk
and
about
it's been interesting as I'm going through and interviewing and with, you know, companies. It's like, well, what are you? It's like,
What are you?
I'm
They
your
don't
unicorn.
understand.
I'm
They,
your unicorn.
they don't understand. It's too much to take in. Like, so were you a release manager or a QA or a product person? What were you, Stephanie?
Oh,
Because we need to
okay.
put you in a box. We need to
Let's
put you
add
in a
one more.
box.
Remember, I started coding.
Oh my God, you started coding with the team. Yeah, you know, you can start to script their QA. What were you? Because we need to put you in a box because we have
Put
a
me in a box.
job rec. We have a job rec
Yeah.
that is a box, and we need to, folks. I need to go for lunch.
Okay,
I need to meet
me
someone
too.
for lunch. Take care, everybody.
bye.
Thank you. Stay agile. Awesome stuff. Bye, Louise. Bye, everybody. Bye.